Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles. We're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards of the Coast, and they've stepped in it once again. Wizards. This is what you get. This is what you get for pandering to Twitter for all these years. Twitter is trying to cancel Wizards of the Coast again because of a flying monkey race in the recently released Spelljammer set. So we're going to talk about this because this has been an ongoing issue with Wizard bending the knee to Twitter, and they do it again, and they're going to come for you again, Wizard, at some point in time. WotC, you're going to have to stand up to Twitter and be like, you know what, we put the game out there. If you don't like these races, you don't like these whatever, this was our intention. You don't like it, don't use them. You know, you play the game how you want to play it. But we're not going to coddle you anymore because, you know, we got to sell books. We got to move forward and not have the entire conversation around Dungeons and Dragons be, is it racist or not? Screw Twitter. Screw Twitter. This is what you've been chasing. This is the audience you've been chasing, and they're going to eat you alive, man. They're going to eat you alive. We're going to talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, over 275,000 subs, almost 276. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. YouTube is up to some shenanigans. Actually, I think there are some people that are up to some shenanigans that's tricking YouTube into not promoting our content as much as they were just a month or two ago. I have theories. I have names. Anyway, if you're into Dungeons and Dragons and you're into fantasy, consider checking out Crimson Wren. Crimson Wren Volume 1 is coming from Clownfish Studios. This is a steampunk fantasy adventure suitable for all ages, but not a kiddie book. Written by Geeky and myself, drawn by the amazingly talented Jose Garcia. We have almost 3 weeks left on the clock on Indiegogo, and we're at almost $45,000. So thank you so much for the support. This takes place in the world of Bellatir, which we are going to explore more. We've explored it in Shadowbinders, the webcomic, and we're looking at some other options to bring you more Bellatir. This is our world, I guess our homebrew world. So check it out, guys. You've got 20 days left to back it on Indiegogo, and it's been pretty amazing so far. You also have a chance to pick up the original Shadowbinders hardcover collections of the original webcomic, and we do have more Shadowbinders coming. It's being worked on currently. And it's we're going to transition from a webcomic to a print comic and hopefully kick it up a few notches. Anyway, let's talk about this. Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast. This is what I'm so tired of this now. I was a big D&D player back in the day, first and second edition AD&D, and Wizards of the Coast. What they've done with Dungeons and Dragons, how they pandered to Twitter. It just blows my mind because back in the day, it was pretty hardcore. You know, Stranger Things actually did get that right with Eddie being demonized, no pun intended, because of the satanic panic, and D&D players didn't care. We had to deal with a lot of shit from normies, and now anytime some person on Twitter or some journalist on Kotaku or Polygon gets their panties in a bunch about something, Wizards of the Coast frickin' folds, like all the time. Like the entire conversation around Dungeons and Dragons, other than Stranger Things, lately has been, oh my god, D&D, it's so racist. It's so uninclusive. What? It's like, come the hell on. You don't like the certain races or whatever in the game. You have every right to change them. You have every right to not use them. That's on you. You know, you can do whatever you want to do at your table. You know, but to force the company to make statements about races that you are misinterpreting as being intentionally racist is bullshit. We saw it with orcs. You know, we saw this whole conversation around orcs, which is a carryover, I guess, from orcs of Tolkien, Tolkien's orcs, and it's carried over into D&D. And now all the monsters are people too, and they all want to be baristas. You know, what the fuck are we playing? Seriously, this is why I don't even touch 5e at this point. I got the basic set for the kids a couple of years ago, which, you know, I was like, okay, cool. I want to get back into tabletop. I'm a lapsed gamer, and I got 5e, and I was like, what the hell? am I looking at here? Not just the game itself. That wasn't the issue. It was getting into the message boards and the culture. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm not throwing Critical Role under the bus. I think Matt Mercer is actually a pretty cool guy. I had the chance to meet him in person a number of years ago. I think he's okay. But the culture that has grown up around like Critical Role and that style of playing and Tumblr and Twitter and all of that, these theater kids, I guess, that have come into this hobby are destroying it. I mean, they really are. I mean, look, the sales are great. Normies are buying D&D during the pandemic and because of Stranger Things and all that. But it's so ironic anyway, because Stranger Things, the version of D&D that they're playing in Stranger Things no longer exists. But I digress. You know, it's a crazy situation. So now we've got Kotaku and Polygon guilting Wizards of the Coast once again into making a statement once again to appease Twitter over a fictitious race of flying monkey people. You know, and of course it's Kotaku and Polygon. These two are like the freaking Tweedledee and Tweedledum of woke game culture, and they're constantly berating companies and calling them out. But they have pretty large platforms, so these companies are buckling, right? Whether it's video game companies or tabletop companies or whatever. But it's like, this is just ridiculous. And all of this is Twitter drama. Nobody gave a shit about orcs. Nobody gave a shit about the Hadozi, which are, I'd never even heard of before now. And I used to play D&D back in the day, but they are effectively flying monkey squirrel creatures. Flying monkey squirrel creatures, right? And they're apparently racist because they're monkeys who were slaves to a wizard and the wizard freed them or something. I'm like, this feels like it's more Wizard of Oz with the flying monkeys than it is an allegory for racism in America. An allegory for slavery, but it's Twitter, and Twitter never ceases to amaze me at how freaking stupid it is. So let's read about what happened per Polygon, what caused Wizards of the Coast to bend the knee yet once again. And guys, you're gonna have to just thicker skin, because Twitter is gonna eat you alive, and this game is already beyond parody. At this point, I mean, they keep kowtowing to these people. God, it's ridiculous. D&D's attempts to root out racism in its books have taken a step backward. Spelljammer's interpretation of the Hadozi is not great. It's not great. Spelljammer Adventures in Space, released without the original author's knowledge, by the way. They weren't real happy, as I understand it. Has been hailed by critics as a return to the game's joyful and satirical roots. But now that the content has been circulating for a few weeks, fans are pointing out something else, a character background rooted in racism. The issue has plagued D&D since its inception, and it has returned to sully what is an otherwise exceptional new release. The offending passage in question comes from Astral Adventurer's Guide, which effectively serves as the player's handbook for the Spelljammer set. On page 13, the book introduces the Hadozi, a spacefaring mammal that looks like a primate. The first Hadozis were timid mammals, the passage begins, no bigger than house cats. Hunted by larger natural predators, the Hadozi took to the trees and evolved wing-like flaps that enabled them to glide from branch to branch, like flying squirrels. From there, it tells the tale of a wizard who trapped and effectively enslaved these creatures with the intent of selling them to the highest bidder. Eventually, the wizard's apprentices befriended these Hadozi and set them free. Fans on social media have been pointing out the parallels to the Black experience in the history of slavery in the United States, including the setting's reliance on antiquated sailing ships. Oh my God, boats are racist. The same kinds of vessels that brought enslaved people to North America in the first place. Critics have also found images in the book that harken back to racist minstrel shows because they're looking for them. They're going out there. Look, wizards, WotC, whatever the hell you want me to call you. If you're listening, you have pandered to this crowd for the last what, 5 to 8 years? And this is what they always do. They always turn on you. They always eat you. And you give them a cookie and they want the whole tray of cookies. And then they eventually want the bakery. You know, this is what happens. And Wizards has been running into issues with basically entitled employees causing damage to them, going out and stirring up shit in the media because they know the media eats it up. Because, again, you have bent the knee to these people for so long on Twitter that they expect it. And if you don't do it, they're going to take you to task using outlets like Polygon and Kotaku. Now, eventually, Polygon and Kotaku are going to get gone. I mean, we've done multiple videos about the state of some of these pop culture websites. But for now, Wizards just is so afraid of bad press. I don't know if it's because they're owned by Hasbro or what the deal is, that they buckle every time. And they need to tell Twitter to go fuck itself. Because the intention, I do not believe, was there to make these especially now with all the faux backlash from orcs and shit like that, and this has been going on for years. They did not intend for these creatures to be racist. I can guarantee you that. But they're going to look for they're going to look through every page of every book, and they're going to try to find racism, sexism, misogyny, homophobia. And eventually, this game is going to be a shell of what... I mean, it already is. I mean, a lot of the shit I've seen from 5e, I'm like, what the hell are you thinking? What are you thinking? But again, it's your table. You can play however you want to. But I don't like 5e. I don't like the culture around 5e. That has more to do with it than the game system. I don't like the culture. This culture is developed around 5e. Amid this controversy, some have dug deeper into the archives of D&D's original publisher, TSR. Oh, they're so bad. Wizards of the Coast purchased that company in the 90s, and those archives, things really go off the rails with additional background information about the Hadozi, evoking many other racist stereotypes of black people. Wizards is fully aware of that problematic back catalog. That's why it includes a content warning on that material at Drive-Thru RPG. Legacy content. And that's been an issue too, because they're basically apologizing for stuff that was written 30, 40 years ago, you know, another time. And some of the stuff that they apologize for, I don't think they have to apologize for. I mean, some of that stuff would not fly today, understandably. But this has been a whole issue. And it looks like they're just kind of trying to tie all these things together. Like, well, TSR was a racist company. You don't want to be like TSR, do you? You don't want to be like TSR, that racist. Like, I'm waiting for them to bring up Gary Gygax, be like, he was a libertarian. He liked guns. Wizards has recently reiterated its commitment to inclusivity. During the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020, Wizards came out firmly against racism and the role the company played in fostering it, and vowed to do better going forward for fans of D&D and Magic the Gathering. It altered 5th edition D&D books and stood by author R.H. Salvatore as he expanded the cultural footprint of the Drow, the black-skinned race of elves. And they talk about Dritz Jordan and Dritz's costume. I saw one at Spirit Halloween. And it was like a white dude dressed as Dritz, and they were afraid to put makeup on him to make him look blackface, and they couldn't get a black guy playing Dritz. You know, it's like, what the hell? This is just a random like Tolkien elf. This isn't a dark elf. I'm like, come on. Oh God. It won awards at Gen Con, this anthology. Following those progressive actions, many fans, as well as other tabletop designers, have been vocal in their criticism of Wizards' choice to reintroduce the Hadozi in this way. This all raises the question of why the Hadozi were even included in this new book. There must be racists at Wizards. Did they work for TSR? Is their last name Gygax? They weren't part of the... Okay, this is where it gets interesting. They weren't part of the original setting, but were instead introduced in an even earlier game called Star Frontiers, first published in 82. I am really surprised they did not bring this up. Because this is a whole complicated thing. I haven't been covering it because it's a dumpster fire. New TSR. new NU TSR, which is TSR 3.0, which is Justin Lanassa and Gary Gygax, Ernie Gygax Jr. I guess was working on it. They're trying to bring back Star Frontiers, but it's not actually Star Frontiers. They just use the name Star Frontiers, and there was a whole big brouhaha that some of the races in there were racist. So I'm really surprised that Polygon hasn't been like, well, speaking of racism and Star Frontiers, and that's a whole nother issue. And like I said, the new TSR situation is an absolute dumpster fire. There are, multiple lawsuits going on. I haven't covered it. I haven't touched it. I'm like, okay. I'm out. I'm out at this point. They can go fight it out in court or whatever they're going to do. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, they said Wizards is currently embroiled in a lawsuit with another publisher who's attempting to reboot Star Frontiers. Again, the publisher that has the TSR name without Wizards' permission. The litigation is expected in court this October. What they're not bringing up is that there was some backlash from apparently a leaked version of Star Frontiers. Now they're gonna have this unified theory of everything that probably they're gonna blame Ernie Gygax, even though he had nothing to do with it. This is all some grand racist scheme by every version of TSR except the one they like, which was the one that did Top Secret, to sneak racism into 5e or some shit. Anyway, so after, again, all this backlash, D&D has to grovel before Twitter, kneel before Twitter. We failed our adventurers and we're truly sorry. Our statement on the Hadozi, September 2nd, 2022. Statement. They have to give it, just like every other month, they have to give a statement. If I worked at Wizards, I'd be like, what the hell are we doing? Why are we groveling before Twitter every other month? Like, we have to apologize for everything. And they're just going to find more. You've apologized how many times now, Wizards? They're just going to find more shit to nitpick. You know this, right? Like, Twitter is never satisfied. They're never satisfied. We want to acknowledge and own the inclusion of the offensive material within our recent Spelljammer Adventures in Space content. We failed you, our players and fans, and we are truly sorry. Oh, piss off. Tell them to be like, whoops, Mel. Don't use them if you don't like them. I don't know what to tell you. They're just flying squirrel monkey people. They're fictitious. You know they're fictitious, right? The campaign includes a people called Hadozi, which appeared in 1982. Regrettably, not all portions of the content relating to the Hadozi were properly vetted before appearing in our most recent release. As we continue to learn and grow through every situation, we recognize that to live our values, we have to do better. Throughout the 50-year history of Dungeons & Dragons, some of the characters in the game have been monstrous and evil, using descriptions that are painfully reminiscent of how real-world groups have been and continue to be denigrated. We understand the urgency of changing how we work to better ensure a more inclusive game. Effective immediately, we will remove the offensive content about Hadozi in our digital versions, and these will no longer be included in future reprints of the book. Please don't tweet at us, we're trying! Our priority is to make things right when we make mistakes. In addition, we've initiated a thorough internal review of the situation. We'll take the necessary actions as a result of the review. We're gonna fire the white guy that put the monkey people in the book, okay? Just leave us alone. We are eternally grateful for the ongoing dialogue with the D&D community. Please don't harass us. And we look forward to introducing new, engaging, and inclusive content to D&D for generations to come. Please keep buying our books. D&D teaches that diversity is strength. For only a diverse group of adventurers can overcome the many challenges a D&D story presents. Yes, a thief, a fighter, a cleric, a wizard. In that spirit, we're committed to making D&D as welcome and inclusive as possible. This is part of our work. It will never end. Just please bear with us. We're not perfect. Oh my God. Wizards, stop being pussies. Seriously. How the hell do we go from D&D being metal, and it was, back in the day, it was, to Wizards of the Coast being full of a bunch of pussies that buckle over, I mean, a handful of people saw something in a fictitious race that isn't actually there, and they complained about it, and they got the media to pick up on it. This is the audience you want, Wizards, and I'm going to be honest, you deserve this. You deserve the slavery that you have put yourself in, that you are going to have to jump every time Twitter tells you to jump. You have yoked yourself to an audience that can never be satisfied. And they're going to turn on you. They're going to eat you. They always, always, always eat their own. Always. Because nothing is good enough. Nothing is pure enough. You're never sorry enough. You're never perfect. And really, it's usually projection, because you look into the people who do the loudest complaining and their own lives are a freaking train wreck, but it makes them feel better to cast judgment on other people. Nobody thought the flying squirrel monkey people were racist caricatures, except for people that were looking to cancel you, to get you to apologize, because that gives them power. They're like, hey, we can make wizards bend the knee again. Yay, this is our game now, bitches. And you did it. And you're going to continue to do it. And eventually, we're not going to be allowed to attack monsters. Well, they have whole campaigns now where you don't actually participate in combat, even though D&D was based on, a war combat game, a war simulator. It's just ridiculous. And I mean, I'm sorry, I can't get behind 5e. I think 6e is going to be even worse. And y'all are a bunch of pussies. You really are. You need to stop it. Just stop it. If somebody doesn't want to use a monster at their table, don't use it. That's all you got to do. Somebody thinks orcs are racist? Fine. You can change the orcs in your own game, but the company doesn't have to issue a statement. Absolutely ridiculous bullshit. And this is why I am so salty when it comes to current year Dungeons and Dragons. It's a parody of what it used to be, what it used to mean. And I can't support it. I'm sorry. It's bullshit. It's a bunch of bullshit, and it's bullshit that you apologize to these people. And they're just going to circle back around in 2 months. They're going to find something else. Everything you do is going to be under a microscope now, because they know you will buckle. Always. I'm going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.